The Allegheny Journal hosts Anthony Morgan, the Chief of Police of Covington, today. And sadly enough, this particular production is going to end with a sad note, because Chief Morgan will be leaving as chief effective next Friday. Chief, we hate to see you go. You've had about a year's tenure in Covington. We know that there have been some issues that ideally, if everything was going fine, you'd still be chief, and you're going to move to a new position, I believe, in Maryland. Can you give us a little bit of background about some of the things you've done here during your tenure? You've talked with the city council about this. You've made some plans, so you'll be leaving. But on the other hand, you started the accreditation process. Can you give us a little feel for the successes you've had in your relationships here?
Yeah, so I think the staff has really done a good job of embracing a lot of the ideas and initiatives that we've wanted to implement to move the city police department forward, serve the citizens of Covington, I think, in a new and improved way. So from getting MDTs in the vehicles, starting the K-9 program, the city will have an ERT team in a couple of months. They're still doing some training and working out the kinks to become a functional team. A lot of our community policing initiatives, Shop with a Cop.
The ERT is Emergency Response Team.
Yes,
right?
That's correct. The city will have its own emergency response team, which another word for it is a SWAT team for search warrants and things of that nature in the city of Covington. And basically giving the city a fully functional police department that can do all the things most even larger police departments can do. So with accreditation on February 11th, the mock assessors come back again. I think the staff has done a tremendous job in cramming something that takes 3 years and under 10 months to get done, and they should be very pleased about that. The department's really undergone a really good culture change, and I think a lot of them understand what servant leadership is about, and I fully expect them to continue on that path.
Obviously, what everyone wants to know is what precipitated your decision to move along. Many people might say, well, he's going to a larger area, allegedly Mount Rainier, Maryland, but it's not all pay, is it?
No, I am going to Mount Rainier, Maryland. I know there's been some rumors out there, and I thank you for having me on today so that I can address those, that I was being forced out, or I wasn't supported by a city council. And those things couldn't be further from the truth. I've enjoyed my time here. The community has truly embraced us. I will say this, one of the proudest moments of my life was my swearing-in ceremony, and the amount of folks that came in there and wished me and my family well. And that type of community spirit, I think, at least in our lives, we felt it the entire time we lived.
It was a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the community's been great. The police department has been great. A culture change is never easy, but they're really growing and becoming leaders within that organization, and they're doing a great job. Nothing there. City council, once they became aware there were some issues, very supportive. They did everything they could to try to get me to stay. There were some issues that we could not get past.
Okay.
And some of those issues, I know there's talk, what was the relationship between the city manager and I? I will forever be grateful to Mr. Douglas for giving me my start as a police chief, for believing in me and allowing me to come to Covington and serve this community. But I think, like anything over time, there were some issues that we discussed, and some things that I wanted, and I'm a firm believer based on principle, needed to be addressed and addressed in the right way. He's, as the city manager, as my boss, has the right to have a different opinion and may look at things in a different direction. I think that I'm a big believer in this. I talk with my staff about it. You don't want to have a toxic culture within an organization. And I think there were some issues that had been festering between myself and a couple other department heads. And I didn't want it to begin to affect my staff. And so sometimes there's addition by subtraction, where growth and progress can happen if an individual is removed. And in this case, it made sense for me and my family to move on.
You know, being the new kid on the block, your last job was in Michigan, the new kid on the block, it's tough. You've made a lot of changes at the department, but the interim chief had started a process of making changes. So then when you come on, more changes. But it seemed like the changes were really for the better. Accreditation is going to bring a whole new level of professionalism, expectations in Covington. It seems like your relationship with the school board was excellent. I don't really know how that community policing concept came about, where some of the officers were visiting various neighborhoods, but from what I've heard, you got pretty good reviews from all of that.
Well, the support from the community has been outstanding, and I will forever be grateful for that. They've really gotten behind and supported their police department. I think the officers have understood the needs, and in the beginning, when you bring a new idea, there's usually, is this really going to work? And I think now they're seeing the tangible benefits of that relationship, with information being passed on for critical cases. When the community has an idea of something we should be doing, if it's a good idea, we're going to implement it. And so I think the relationship between the police department and the community is at a really good point right now. I think there's nothing there that will stop and prevent it from even continuing to go forward, because as you said, with accreditation, you are going to have a documented professional police department that's also modern, and that's great for this area. I think it, for businesses, for people with families, I think it only helps to attract people, and the sky's the limit for the police department.
I think you've recommended that Chris Smith take over as the interim chief. Yes,
he's with the number of projects, the new CAD system, the radios, accreditation. There are so many different things going on within the organization. He has so much knowledge. Being my number two with it, it would be a natural step to at least let him be the interim chief. That has been my recommendation, to keep the train on the tracks and keep progress going and see some of these projects through to completion, because a lot of them are right around the corner.
We very much thank you for joining us today. We are going to miss this fellow. Every time we had a question, or the community had a question, at least what we're aware of, we've seen him at every conceivable public meeting, from school boards to special safety meetings. We consider it a loss to the community, Chief.
I appreciate it, and like I said, I just want everyone to know I've appreciated how the community has embraced me and my family. Obviously, this is not how we thought things would go, but I do want everyone, as I said, to know. I think a police department is always larger than one individual. It's a team of folks, and I would ask that the community continue to wrap itself around the police department. And I know there's been some different things said on Facebook. I think at any time, the one thing I really appreciate about Covington is the way people here can come together. And I would ask that people would come together and not maybe jump to conclusions or attack other people personally, because everyone here has a family, and it can take a toll on them too. So nothing more here than, I think we all tried to give it our best shot, and in the end, it didn't work out. And so sometimes that's just the way it goes.
Let us hear of your progress in Maryland. We hear you have quite a job in front of you.
I do, that's correct.
Thanks again.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate you.